Hello, I just wanted to talk about good and evil. I was just recording a video talking about a spell book, but it reminded me of the concepts of good and evil. And I would say, and this is obviously my opinion from my experiences, but that good and evil is not like one is right and one is wrong. Good and evil is more good being you are trying to adhere to the universe's path, and bad being that you are not, that you are trying to make your own path. And I would say that there's nothing wrong with either of those or right with either of those. Like, I don't think it's more holy to fall in line with the universe. The idea is that like if you do bad things, you'll go to hell, right? And I do not believe in a hell or a heaven. I believe that there are different levels of consciousness, and I think that you can evolve a higher level of consciousness regardless of whether you're good or evil, quote unquote. Whether you're following the path of the universe. So like, let's say that I'm going to work and I get to work and I'm having this feeling in myself, and I'm like, if I go outside and have a cigarette and have some coffee, I'm probably gonna be late. Not because of like I don't have enough time, but like I could just sense that like I'm gonna like lose track of time. Like I have plenty of time. If I listen to that voice and I just decide to either go outside and pay full attention to what time it is and really, you know what I mean? Or I just don't go outside at all. That's me listening to my inner voice, which is actually just adhering to the path of the universe, right?
Path of the universe request turn off the car. Love you.
Or I could just completely ignore that and be like, I'm gonna make everything fine. Like I'm going to ignore that, and let's say that I go out there and I decide that I won't be late and I don't keep track of the time. And that is a power of will. Like there's something to be said about that. There's a lot of strength in that. The problem with it is that you are fighting against the universe. So there's things that are set. Like the reason that I'm having that feeling is because I could tell that I'm tired that day. I could tell that the way that the day has gone so far, I have the potential to be late to work if I enjoy myself too much, if I'm not paying enough attention. You could fight that in a number of ways. But the point is that I could do it with my own power, or I could do it with the power of the universe as one being. So that's why it's not evil and good to me. It's just the decision, are you going to adhere to the laws that are currently in motion, or are you going to push against them? I personally, my practice is definitely going towards melding with the universe. I personally, the way that my spirit just is, I like when things fall into place like that. First of all, I don't feel like I have the brain power to, excuse me. I don't feel like I have the brain power to go against the universe. You have to be a special kind of person to be successful in that path. You have to be fully conscious of everything you're doing, and there's to be successful regularly in that. Like in that same example I gave, I would have to be fully paying attention and just be like, okay, like of my own will, and like and I just don't like living like that. Like call it laziness or whatever, but like I'd rather just have that gut feeling and just follow it and just go with like the easiest way. So for me, I pick the good path. What's interesting is that the good and evil thing, what we perceive as good, is falling in line with the universe, and what we perceive as evil is not. I think that's just the basic concept of survival. You know what I mean? Like when we as human beings are in a group, we're safer. So the idea of this bad, you notice a lot of the bad characteristics are secluded, are away from others, are making decision against others. So it's just a survival thing. Like if someone makes the choice to murder somebody, that's obviously against everyone's survival, because the less people we have, the less likely we all are to survive. That murdering person is against the whole group of people. That's what evil is. You know, that's what bad is. Is that actually bad? For me, yeah, of course. Like, but then it gets into those micro things, like me making the decision to, you know, I don't know, like eat too much chocolate. Like, that's like a bad decision for myself. That's against my own health. That's what bad is. But like, how bad is it? You know what I mean? That's when the whole concept of like heaven and hell becomes so bullshit, because who's to say where the line of bad and good is? Like, how much, you know what I mean? And there's certain religions that have certain rules, you know what I mean? Like, if you do this, you'll not get in, and if you do that, you will get in. All those rules are just man-made. They're not, there's no actual rules. It's all about how much you elevate yourself. So in your lifetime, are you going to strive to become more balanced and to elevate, or are you not? That's not even good and bad either. You don't have to elevate. You don't. There's no fucking reason to. Like, it's your choice. Like, you could just be like, this lifetime, I just want to focus on having a good time. And my opinion is that the God, right, however you picture God wants that. That's my perception, is that God, the whole purpose of this world is for us to have experiences. And the reason I say that is a long ass tangent, and I will go into it, but I'm going to take a sec and just breathe, because it's a long ass tangent. And by breathe, I mean take in smoke. So, the way that I picture the universe is that we are all, and this is like a Hermetic philosophy. This is like straight out of the Kabbalion. But I was given this from my inner spirit back in like 2012. Yeah. So the concept is that we are all part of a consciousness. We are all one consciousness. And when I say we are all, I mean every single human being that's ever lived. Any animal, plant, rock, literally everything that you could think of is part of this consciousness. The concept of people saying that life is a dream, that we're all dreaming, like wake up, this whole, you've heard it before. This is a dream state. So the entirety of the universe is someone's dream. That's the easiest way for us to think of it. But it's a mental state of a being. This being God, right? When you hear people say, I am God, like God is within me, that is actually to say that we are part of God. That in the way that this God is dreaming us up, really, that's how I think of it. If you picture when you go to sleep and you have a dream and all the characters in your dream and all the things that you come up with, that's like essentially what we are. And that doesn't take away from our realness. That just, the concept is that we are a part of this God's creation, right? They always say creation, right? We are a thought. And that doesn't take away from our realness, because as you can see, like, we're fully here, like we're here. That's really the only reason it doesn't take away from our realness, because like, what is real? Real is just what we perceive. So therefore it's real. That's the only thing. So, the concept is that God is having a dream and we are all part of God's dream. Now, if you think of God not as this like giant man or being or goddess or perfect being, just think of him as a person, just a fucking guy, just having a dream. In this dream, what is his point? You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're always asking. Like, what's the point of life? What's the point of your dream? When you're dreaming, what's your point of your dream? Nothing. You're just dreaming. You're just like, you know, most people like will kind of hash out their fears, will hash out what they want. Like, that's what a dream is. And that's the point of us thinking of this as a dream, is not to be like, none of this matters, but to realize that it's not, you're not in trouble when you do bad. You're not perfect when you do good. It's just experience. That's the point of the dream, is that you're here to experience whatever you feel like experiencing. Now, obviously, if somebody feels like experiencing murder, that's not good. I'm not saying that like anything you do is okay. I'm saying that we all are here to experience. And if somebody wants to experience murder and we all agree that we don't want that person to experience murder, that's part of the experience. And that's good. It is what it is. Like, whatever you want is what can happen. And there's nothing wrong or right about it. Now, getting into like the idea of like heaven and hell, I don't believe in that concept. I just believe in a multidimensional layering system. So like if you think of a dream state, there's the first level, which is the person that's dreaming, right? And then you just go out and you get bigger and bigger. If you're thinking of it as like a pyramid. Interrupting my thought. Like, my thought is gone. Pyramid. Yeah, I don't know. That's the point. That's the whole point right there. It's a complex thing for me to speak out into words, but basically what I'm trying to say is like this God being is thinking and creating thoughts, and as each thought is created, it gets more and more complex. And that's us. That's what we are part of, is this complex thought. And the idea is that when you're elevating yourself, you're getting closer to the God consciousness. So when people say like wake up, what they're really saying is become God again. Like, get out of your dream, like you're part of the dream. I actually don't agree with that, like the wake up thing. Everything has its time and place. I am here right now for a reason, and the reason is to do this body. Like, I was put in here, and by put in, I just mean like I'm here, like this is my body. And I'm not trying to escape my body. I'm going to experience what this body is in the fullest as much as I can. So if this body like wants to smoke cigarettes, and it smokes cigarettes so much that it kills itself, that's what this body is going to do, and that's the experience that it's going to have. Now you might be like, what the fuck are you talking about with this experiences thing? Like, why does that matter? The way that I've always thought about it is I tried, as a young kid, I grew up Christian, and I was trying to figure out, I'm like, what does God want, right? Like, I was trying to like understand, like, what is the fucking point of this whole thing? And like, why does God want us to go through all of these experiences, and why would God let the world be bad, and you know what I mean? Trying to put myself in God's shoes. And I started to think, and more I just thought of God as this young kid, just this person that like wants to, here. So like, imagine you're a being and there's no one around you and it's just you. My immediate thought is, for a while I'm cool, right? Like for a minute I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Like, I'm alone, I'm chilling, I'm doing my thing. But after a while, like, I feel like I would get bored, right? And I'm like, if it's just me and there's nothing else, what do you do when you're bored? You start thinking about shit. You start creating scenarios, and you start, you know what I mean? Like, you make beautiful pieces of stories and art and music in your head. That's what you do when you're bored. So I think of it that way, that like this whole experience is God creating a bunch of scenarios basically out of boredom. So like, our existence is entertainment. We are here to experience. And if you think about it as all of us being individuals, it's a little harder to picture, but if you picture us all being a facet of a person's personality, You know, like if you think of like, if I think of myself, I'm kind of like outgoing, I'm a little crazy, like I have like a lot of dumb blonde moments, like I'm very easily like a caricature of someone's personality. So it's easy for me to picture it. And I think of all the choices that I made, and I think like that would be interesting to me. Like if I was just like someone else, I would totally like make myself do this shit. You know what I mean? I'd be like, oh, make her break all the glasses in that bar and get kicked out. Like that would be interesting. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it's really easy to picture because of my ridiculous personality. But I think even like a person, and this is really dark, but like if a person is born and then immediately dies, right? That's an experience. Like it's a horrible experience, but each person, even though in certain situations, like you think, okay, a bunch of babies die immediately after birth. How could that be happening so many times for that's like the same experience? But it's not, because every single person has a different layout in their brain and a different set of parents and a different genetic makeup and a blah, 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 right? You know what I mean? Like environment. And so each scenario that could play out is still interesting in the most morbid sense, because if you think about it in the way of it just being a dream and just being a thought that some guy quote unquote had, it's not a big deal, because we're all just energy just getting thrown into these bodies, and all right, let's do these things and let's see what happens, and then we die. And then I always think of it as is when we die, we all conglomerate again and be like, oh man, what did you experience? Oh, I experienced this. Like, oh, I experienced this. And that it's almost like a storytelling time, and like people are like competing for the most interesting story. When in reality, I'm sure that if it was that scenario, nobody's competing. That's just my personality. But that's kind of what I have to say about it. That's how I think about good and evil. Like there is no good and evil. Like it's just having experiences. I hope that that was even coherent at all. Thank you so much.